gummy bear.
It's the internet, you're busy. Let's do this for August 26, 2022. For the next hour or so, let me help you sort through the world of gaming on Game Mess Mornings Live with me, Jeff Grubb. Today, acquisition season has entered a quantum state that changes every time you observe it. But first, please join me in welcoming today's co-host of Game Mess Mornings. It's Mike Minotti from GamesBeat. Mike, how are you doing?
I'm back.
He's here. He's back again. Tam had a busy Friday. Yeah, Tam had a busy Friday, so when you were like, hey, who's going to be on Game Mess Mornings the rest of the week on Wednesday when we were driving to wrestling? I'm like, that's a good question, Mike. I should probably figure that out.
Well,
I'm like, hey, maybe you could be.
You have to say it like Dr. Light from the awful voice acting for Mega Man. Hey, that's a good question. That sounds like Elmer Fudd for no reason. We went that quickly, Mega Man.
Yeah, what was up with video game characters and cartoons in the 80s? All the characters from Captain N, pretty wild. Didn't Mega Man have a wild voice in that one?
Well, Captain N, that's like, much earlier. It's a cartoon, and also, just really bizarre. That's where you had Mother Brain. Sounding like, I don't know, like I don't even know. I don't want to say what it might sound like. It's probably offensive. It's weird. Simon Belmont was like a beefcake, which maybe is right. Actually.
Right. Yeah. Yes.
I just remember there was a giant Game Boy that they were friends with. So, yeah, Captain N was wild. I always wanted that kind of varsity jacket he had, though. I thought
that is pretty good.
There was a time where I thought the cool deep cut for Smash Brothers would be Captain N. I think it is now probably too obscure for that. Maybe like 10 years ago they could have gone with it. Nobody remembers Captain N now.
We did get himbo Simon Belmont, though, so all things worked out in the end. But yeah, how's your week been going, Mike? Is it like you have a good productive week? You got a day off there when we kind of went to wrestling, but other than that, how'd it go?
Yeah, no, it's been productive. It's been a few meetings and whatnot on the GamesBeat side, so kind of getting things figured out for the rest of the year with our events and whatnot. But yeah, no, it's been a good time. We had a very good time Wednesday getting some barbecue and seeing some wrestling. So yeah, I can't complain, Jeff.
You also have your Buckeye Combat Club shirt on, which I'm sure you probably it looks pretty cool. Yeah,
that's good. We got to the AEW show. I like to peek at the merch. Usually I don't worry about it because you can buy that stuff online, but sometimes they have special stuff where you are. So since it was a show in Ohio, so the Blackpool Combat Club, there was this Buckeye Combat Club, and I was like, well, I gotta go get that one. I'll be back.
Yeah,
I'm very happy. I got you a Prezi though. I got you your Sting sticker.
Yes, you did. Yeah, it's sitting on the counter upstairs. I'm still trying to decide where to put it. I will probably find somewhere to maybe I'm thinking on the side of this big computer that sits right over here, but we'll see. It's very good. I got to see Sting for the first time in person, which very important to me. I've never seen that before.
I wasn't sure it was going to show up too, so I was like, I hope my kid's going to be happy. Sting shows, but he's a hero.
Yes, I guess that's spoilers for Rampage tonight, but oh well.
Well, not the most exciting spoiler.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah, I think people will be okay.
All right. Like I said, he came out for Dark. I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, you guys don't know. Before we get into this mess, let's explain ourselves. Each weekday, I, Jeff Grubb, will help piece your gaming life back together. That includes breaking news, the catch-up, where we discuss the biggest topics consuming the lives of gamers everywhere, and maybe even bring in some of our own original reporting. For all these topics, I'll get the input of a bona fide expert who will make me look smart. If you are watching live on Twitch, welcome. Hello, Twitch. We appreciate it. You can always listen to the show later on podcast feeds by searching for Game Mess Mornings or find the RSS on giantbomb.com. You can also catch the show later with chapters and timestamps on YouTube. Hello, YouTube. How you doing?
All right. Jeff, you didn't make a joke after you called me a bona fide expert. Wow.
Yeah. Oh, I'm only one per week. It's in the clause. You got to read closer. Next time I'll make it happen. We have to get a lot to get into, so let's get started with the morning mess. With Amazon has been rumored to be buying Electronic Arts. Amazon is not buying Electronic Arts.
What's going on?
Yeah, so this is CNBC sources say otherwise. This is according to Good Luck, Have Fun, which I was like, I think I've seen those letters before in relation to like producing news content. And I looked into it this morning. It's like a Swedish company that is a network of writers that will say, we'll produce content for your site. And apparently, like, USA Today has hired Good Luck Have Fun to write a story about this, and it went up live on USA Today today that said Amazon will announce that it put in a formal offer to acquire Electronic Arts, the publisher behind Apex Legends, FIFA, Madden, and more. Right on the heels of this, it took a couple hours actually, but
we'll call that the heels. We'll call that heels. And to be clear, like that story was saying we're going to hear about it today officially.
Today, CNBC was talking about the story, and then they teased like maybe not everything here is what it seems, and like in that time, like the stock price shot up, and then it didn't kind of arced off a little bit as people were like, okay, let's wait to see what actually happens, and then CNBC was like, and it might not happen, and then just it plummeted back down, and then we got this little interview segment. It's a minute long. Let's just go ahead and listen to it.
There's fire. You don't think there's any fire?
Well, it just came down a lot. I guess was the tease. Listen, I mean, I have talked to some people who would actually know if there was something going on, and they say there's nothing going on. These are people who would be involved, who in fact were involved when our parent company, Joe, was talking to Electronic Arts. That was real. That was some time ago. It didn't advance after a while, in part because our parent company entertaining this idea of spinning off NBCU into EA, having the EA gentlemen run the combined company, but wanted voting control. So that didn't happen. EA definitely has been out there a bit in the past, at least, considering what it might do. You could imagine Amazon might have some interest. But as for this Swedish report from this, Good Luck Have Fun is the name of the source. No, this is not going to happen today.
Yeah,
EA
right,
gentlemen.
Yeah, David Faber was definitely like, even before this, like there's like a longer clip of this where he's just like, this Swedish meatball report, and I'm like, Jesus, man, he's like destroying Good Luck Have Fun.
Man, he is not having fun.
No, definitely not. Let's see, let's get back over here. This just seems like a misreporting. Seems like an error. You told me right before we went live here that USA Today or Good Luck Have Fun like updated the story to say that they are like rewriting it because it doesn't meet their editorial standards.
They updated it, and it sounds like just in regards to sources and quotations, maybe in terms of like not unverified, but maybe why am I blanking?
Anonymous.
Anonymous. Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it has anything to do with like they don't believe in their report anymore or what have you.
Right.
But I don't know. It's pretty wild. You'd think you would be pretty sure if you were going to, as a part of USA Today in some fashion, come out and say Amazon is making an offer to buy EA and they're going to announce it today. I don't know how you oopsie doopsie that, right? You gotta be pretty sure going forward with that one. So I guess, and I know, we got CNBC saying it's not happening. Are you 100% convinced it is in fact not happening?
I'm pretty sure it's not happening. I'm like, 95% sure. I mean, the people I've talked to as well, they had no idea anything like this was happening, which probably means
pretty good EA sources, by the way. For people who know, Jeff has an inside track there.
It probably means that it's not happening. That's not 100% from my side of things. I think David Faber actually probably has even better sources on the acquisition side of things. This to me just seems like, there was a mistake somewhere along the lines. Maybe there is some talks happening. There's probably like meetings happening, but they're like, we say this every time this comes up. Meetings are always happening. They are always talking about these things. And maybe someone misinterpreted and that ended up turning into a story for Good Luck Have Fun. Yeah, this update on the story from USA Today is kind of brutal to Good Luck Have Fun. It says earlier today, Good Luck Have Fun, a gaming esports outlet and content partner for the Win, ran a version of this story on our website that violated our editorial standards regarding the use of unnamed and unvetted sources. We have updated this story.
Maybe it is about them not really believing in it then.
Yeah, that's rough. I will say, like, in between this, the USA Today, like the written report changed a couple of times. And at one point, like with the update from CNBC, the story changed in such a way that it's like, there are rumors that this is going to happen, and it didn't like say like the rumors came from.
Yeah, where these rumors come from?
Yeah, it didn't say it came from the story that you're reading right now, and so
we're all looking for the guy who did this.
Yeah, it's wild. I'll say that like this is kind of stuff that when it's happening to you, This happened to me with that. I've told the story before, but the EA CEO Adam Boyce is going to be the new EA CEO, and I fell for that April Fool's joke. When that was happening, it was very similar. Like, I'm just trying to figure out, okay, how did I get this so wrong? Oh my God, it's March 31st, and I made a mistake. I fell for it, and it can feel real bad. And people are definitely going to pile on here, but that's the risk you run when you put out a report like this. Like, that's just like, at that time it was like I fell for a PR blast that wasn't real. This is like, when you got sources and they're telling you something and no one else is saying it, you got to be real certain before you go out there. It's tough though.
Why do you think? Yeah. Why do you think this NBC Universal kind of deal fell through? Sounds like it would have been pretty good for at least Andrew Wilson. He would have been in charge of NBC Universal plus EA.
Right.
That happened.
It sounded like there was some disagreement about who would have majority voting rights in the merger that was going to happen between NBC Universal and EA. And the idea was that, you're right. Andrew Wilson would have been head honcho of this new media group that would have involved, all this TV stuff and live cable productions or whatever, and movies, as well as all the game stuff at EA. And it would have been like, now we have a game division that can turn all these properties into games as well. And whatever. It would have been a pretty good deal, right, for Andrew Wilson. It just sounds like, I think the people at NBC Universal wanted to retain majority voting rights, and that was a sticking point, and neither side could overcome that hurdle. And we know that EA was one of the companies, like basically all the major publishers coming out of the Microsoft Activision announcement of that deal. EA was absolutely a 5-alarm fire, trying to figure out, okay, we need to be better positioning ourselves for a potential merger or acquisition. When it comes to EA specifically, they are much more interested in mergers. That's their big thing, is they're trying to say, hey, there are other companies we can merge with. And they've had a lot of conversations with a lot of big companies in the game space, outside of the game space about that. It does sound like the NBC Universal was the one that went the furthest along. All that said, it's like the things have changed a lot in the economic, on the ground when it comes to the economy. And I wonder if the conditions you go into talks with, when those conditions change, I feel like it resets a lot of these talks. So who knows if EA is actually still going to try to make this stuff happen. Who knows if Amazon still wants to acquire a big game company, or Disney, or any of these other companies that were talking about this recently. I don't know. Do you think the big acquisition season thing is still ongoing, or are we kind of in this weird limbo state?
I kind of thought that it was sort of done for a little bit. I think a lot of people are kind of spooked about what's going on with the economy right now. So that's why when I woke up, this seemed like such surprising news. Because, if it did happen, Jeff, the ramifications of that, it seems like then all of a sudden your Apples and Googles would maybe panic and be like, well, crap, we need to get our own EA before everything else is gobbled up, because there aren't too many of those left. So, that's a whole other thing. Do we want Amazon to acquire EA? And sometimes with these big acquisitions, you can find a bright side to it. Like when, Xbox got Activision Blizzard, it's like, well, consolidation isn't great, but Activision Blizzard was a mess, and maybe things are going to kind of improve there in terms of output and the culture. I would struggle to think of a good side of Amazon owning EA.
Yeah, me too. I when this first was happening, I was thinking about the conversation we were going to have on here when we got to this news story. And my gut was just this one I cannot think of this is how this is going to benefit anything. It is just Amazon likely taking on a major publisher, and that major publisher is probably going to languish over time as Amazon struggles to figure out what it wants its gaming division to be doing. Maybe it's we'll put some games into Amazon, more original games in Amazon Prime, and then that stuff probably wouldn't do great because it's not going to be enough with just EA stuff. No. And so then, I guess we'll try to go back to the old way of doing things, and we'll bring back some of these old franchises, and I bet a couple of those things would probably fizzle. And then Amazon would be like, well, I'm done playing with this toy. I'm moving on to another acquisition and just forget about it. That's the future I would see in that case. So, yeah.
Meanwhile, if it was NBC Universal, then at least I could say, well, now EA can make a Columbo game. So there's something.
Right. That would have been the silver, the most silver of all linings.
Yeah. And a Frasier game.
And the dream.
The absolute dream.
Nintendo doesn't have any plans to raise the price of the Switch. And then I put in parentheses here again, because they did raise the price of the Switch. Here's a statement from Nintendo in Europe. As our president, Mr. Furukawa, stated at the 82nd annual general meeting of shareholders in June, while we cannot comment on pricing strategies, we currently do not have any plans to change the price of our hardware due to inflation or increased procurement costs in each country. We will determine our future pricing strategies through careful and continued deliberations. And he said, well, while the final price to consumers is always determined by retailers, as Mr. Furukawa stated, Nintendo has no plans to increase the trade prices of its hardware.
No plans yet.
Yes, right. No plans yet. But like they got away with one already, to the point where people are like, will Nintendo ever raise their prices, as if they didn't put out the OLED at a higher price than the previous model, and not like just like, oh, a previous price than the current price, the higher price than the launch price for the system. $350 as opposed to $300. The Switch launched at $300. Now you can get an OLED for $350, and that's like the primary model that most people are probably going for these days. So they found a way to, as far as they're concerned, raise the price, because the average sales price will have gone up because of that. And that's kind of the thing they're looking at. They're not looking at like necessarily like, oh, I'm making this much money from this product. They're like looking at the average sales price they get from their hardware. And it went up, so they already sneakily got away with a price increase. They don't need to do another one. That said, maybe they would consider another one because things are so wild with shortages. But this thing's pretty late in the cycle. This system is definitely probably still making them a profit, even with shortages. So they don't have to force this and walk themselves into a PR blunder. They can just let Sony do that on their own, and Nintendo can just stand back and continue to make money from the Switch, right?
Yeah, I mean, do you think, would they be persuaded if the Sony thing does in fact blow over, like we think it probably will, and then like a year from now, maybe Microsoft and Nintendo are gonna be like, well, they got away with it, why shouldn't we get away with it?
Yeah, I think what this, for Nintendo, the Nintendo side of things, this more likely convinces them that they can raise the introductory price of the next Switch, right?
Yeah, and that's kind of the thing, right? That's the question now with all this stuff, is because we all think that Sony probably wishes they released the PlayStation 5 at a higher price.
Yeah, definitely.
So upcoming hardware like the PlayStation VR2, like the next Switch, that stuff is probably going to come in higher than it would have otherwise.
Yeah, it's and then when it comes to the Xbox side of things, they are probably like, listen, we need every time there's a fork in the road of making the right decision, making the one that like makes gamers makes you more appealing to gamers. We need to be taking the fork that is like, okay, it's going to cost us more money, but it's going to make us seem like the good guys, and they are going to do that every single time for the foreseeable future, because they're not talking about making they're not in a mode of trying to make a lot of money this year with Xbox. They are thinking 10 to 15 years down the line right now still. And so every time that they have a chance to build the brand up in a positive way so they can build up loyalty that will last them a generation of human, beings, they're going to do that. And so I just think that it's very unlikely that they raise the price. That said, again, when they have new products come out, will those products be more expensive to be on par with what the market has available? Yeah, I think so. They'll probably do that. But I don't think they raise the price of anything that they have right now, unless things go drastically wild and
unless things go down, as Scott Steiner said, right?
Yes, exactly. Thank you, Scott Steiner, for always putting into words what I struggle to. All right. Xbox boss expects console demand to outstrip supply this holiday. This comes from Tom Ivan at VGC. Microsoft's gaming chief has said he doesn't think the company will be able to satisfy demand for Xbox consoles this holiday season. I still think demand will outstrip supply for us this holiday, he said. We'll see when we get into 2023. You'll start to see more that supply is catching up with demand, and maybe actually see one in the store when you walk in. This is kind of where I think everyone thinks where we're at with this stuff, where this holiday, it's still going to be a tough prospect to walk into a store and find one of these things, to go online and be able to immediately click and buy it. But maybe next year it starts to clear up. Is that still your thinking?
Yeah, that seems to be right. And for next year, they probably do want to clear it up. I mean, if they think they're going to have a supply issue this holiday, when, like the story for so long is Microsoft doesn't have very many games coming out in 2022, especially in the holiday season as far as exclusives. Next year, that will probably not be the case. So supply could be, a good deal higher than it even is going into this holiday. So yeah, that's when you really want to make sure you have your supply in check.
And it's kind of thing where holidays were always going to pick up, and I think maybe people were once predicting a recession. Now it seems uncertain, so people are probably going to consumer spending has maintained its level for the most part. Yeah, it's gone up and down, but for the most part, it hasn't like plummeted like you would expect in a recession. People say they are expecting a recession, and yet they're still spending a lot of money. So with those conditions, you would expect going into the holiday when people need gifts and when the people are looking for things for themselves, they're like, okay, now's the time. I can maybe it's a little bit easier than it was last holiday. I want to have a console this year, so we're going to make it happen. And then, still on top of that, there are still component issues. The chip shortage seemed to like clear up a little bit for a couple of months or whatever. Maybe that's a problem again. But even when that was cleared up, all these companies were saying all these other components are hard to come by now. So I think that we'll get through this holiday. Next year, it'll be a little bit better. And then both of these companies, well, maybe not Xbox because their system is so like under-engineered in terms of like you kind of can't take anything out of there. But maybe the PlayStation 5 might get a like revision next year that uses less cooling, is smaller, cheaper to manufacture, uses a smaller process.
Oh, they'll be able to lower the price back down then.
Yeah, right. That's not happening, right? Yeah, I know that's the joke. Like everyone's like, oh, maybe the price will go back down. I mean, when do you think would be a potential for like with this supply issue? It just seems like the price is going back down or dropping in the first place for something like an Xbox is so far away still, right? 2-3 years maybe.
Far away or never. Maybe like when they announce the successors, they'll be like, oh, and by the way, those ones that are going to be sunsetting soon, those are a little cheaper now. Otherwise, it's we were talking about this before, Jeff, but it's not like those old days when they would make the PlayStation 1 like with the like one spelled out, and it was like you can now get in on this console at like $90 or something.
Yep.
No way.
That's completely gone. That's a bygone era for sure. Phil Spencer talks with Bloomberg about saying Microsoft would recognize unions. He kind of elaborated a little bit on this point. I've never run an organization that has unions in it, he said. But what I can say is that in working through this, we recognize workers' needs to feel safe and heard and compensated fairly in order to do great work. So we felt it was important to make a public statement on that front. The workers that are there making decisions about their employment and what they want, what they wanted that to look like if the Microsoft and Activision deal is able to close. He basically said that he just wants to make sure that that is something they completely respect. He also said that when they made their original statement, he knew it was going to have a broader impact, including people under Xbox or the Microsoft organization, across that entire organization, that they might consider, oh well, if they're going to recognize this Activision union, they will likely recognize ours too, so we should probably start thinking about that. And he's like, yeah, we knew they might do that. And we continue to say, yeah. Phil Spencer's been doing a few interviews like this one with the kinds of outlets that I think regulators might be reading. He seems like he's on a charm offensive right now, right? Where he's like trying to say all the right things to make this deal go through, right?
Yeah, I think that's exactly it, Jeff. Otherwise, I don't think he'd be giving so much lip service to unions. Mm-hmm. Not exactly a favorite topic amongst higher ups. So yeah, I mean, also, it is a reality. They are trying to acquire a company that has a union, so you can't come out and say we hate unions. We're gonna bust that thing up once we acquire it, right?
Right.
So that's
it feels like a lot of other companies would say that in so many words. Like if Amazon was making an acquisition, they wouldn't suddenly be like, and we're totally going to recognize all unions. Like we recognize the workers' need for that, right? Or they would just be like, we think unions are bad. Like they say that all the time, and they probably would. So it's like, it's still interesting that he's out here saying this, and that if he were ever to change his tune, I think some people in the public would hold him accountable, but I think people like Elizabeth Warren would be very much on top of this and like yelling him down, saying, you changed your tune. You obviously were lying and manipulating things. So the next time you try to do anything, we will come down on you with the assumption that we cannot trust you. And I don't think that they're lying here. I just think this is a strategic move and not necessarily out of the kindness of their hearts, right?
Yes, strategy is the word. Strategery.
Yes.
Do we still make jokes about strategery?
Yeah, Mike, every day. Everyone's still making that joke.
I'm glad I'm hip with it.
Yeah, great reference, bro. Warner Brothers game boss David Haddad doesn't think that the division will be significantly cut by restructuring at WB and Discovery. This comes from an interview with Stephen Totillo at Axios. This comes amid a hot streak for WB with the mega hits Lego Star Wars The Skywalker Saga and Multiverses. In this interview, he says, I do believe, especially moving forward, that we have a critically important role to play inside the company, he said. describing a division-wide opportunity to bring company franchises to people who prefer games to other media. Asked if the division would be there for the long haul, he said, Warner Brothers Discovery leadership has expressed a strong belief in the growth of the games business and being part of the overall company strategy. Previously, Bloomberg and CNBC reported that previous owners, AT&T, had tried to sell the studios for $4 billion in 2020. Man, 2020 is a long time ago when we first started hearing about those rumors.
Right. Yeah. It does feel like we were hearing about that even before the acquisition kind of wave started. We all thought that was going to be the first domino to fall, and it just kind of kept standing.
Yeah, and it's the kind of thing where you could see why, because they're like Warner Brothers is such a mess, and they have so much debt, and they're looking to cut costs, and it's like, oh well, video games are expensive to make, and it's a hit-driven business, so it's unpredictable. Let's get rid of some of this stuff. But then they obviously had no obvious buyer, because you're trying to sell these studios without the IP. That continues to be a problem to this day. I would think, though, as we look over what they're doing with HBO Max or whatever, how they're just cutting that thing down to its core, cutting off its limbs, it seems completely reasonable to assume that the gaming business would be treated in a similar way. But they have had two major hits. Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga is the second best-selling game in the United States so far this year, only to Elden Ring. Only Elden Ring has outsold it. That's a significant hit. And then Multiverses is also a significant hit, a free-to-play game that topped the NPD chart the month it came out because people were so eager to have all the characters that they just bought the Founders Pack right out of the gate and shot it to the top of the charts as well. When you have success like that, that maybe gives you a little bit more runway. But now we are coming up to what's next. Gotham Knights, things that seem a little bit more uncertain. And who knows, maybe those games will come out and be hits. But I don't think it takes long for if games like that start to shake and cause a story of like these companies still don't know what to do with all these DC properties. I think this could change quickly, right?
Yeah, I mean, they certainly have to be safe for now. Because like you said, two giant hits this year. It seems like one of the most successful divisions at Warner Bros. Right now. A lot of things aren't working there. Gaming is certainly working right now. But if Gotham Knights isn't a giant hit, and I think it'll do okay, Jeff. I don't think it's going to be a giant hit. And Suicide Squad might be shakier than that even, and we haven't even heard about that one a bit. Granted, maybe because they're focusing on Gotham Knights, but still, it seems like they've gone radio silent on that one. And it looks like it might be a while before we get NetherRealm's next thing. We haven't heard about whatever that is yet, and that's always big moneymaker. If that one's kind of too late to arrive to sort of, add to the money pile here, who knows? And look, Warner Brothers isn't making good decisions right now anyways, right? Since the Discovery merger. So maybe they'll just do something stupid despite how successful the gaming division is going. Right.
That feels like a distinct possibility as well. Related to this, Lego's gaming future is still uncertain when it comes to working with WB, but Haddad seems to think that it could remain with WB Games. We've been a long partner with Lego, and we're excited for that to continue, is all he said on that topic.
I mean, why wouldn't everybody want the same arrangement after Skywalker Saga was a giant deal? And of course, money's involved, so things can fall apart, but you imagine there would be some effort on all parties to kind of move forward and get back together, right?
Yeah, and I think that's probably what changed it, right? Because I think there was maybe a trajectory where, okay, we've done this for a long time. These things have begun to grow stale. We are seeing diminishing returns on sales. We've heard about problems at Traveler's Tales, not just in terms of production, but with a toxic work environment. Maybe it's time to hit the ejector. But, oh, my God, this game is selling better than we ever predicted.
Yeah.
We have to, rethink this because so much money is now on the line. So, yeah, I think that's probably what has happened here. And the talks probably will involve renegotiating some of the deals and the terms and stuff like that. But when a game like Skywalker Saga comes along, you can be afforded a little bit more room to operate, and I think that's what everyone's going to end up agreeing to.
Yep.
The Last of Us Part 1 has a comprehensive list of accessibility features. I'm not going to go through the entire thing because it really, really is massive. It is a massive list of things that they've done here. I'll read a couple of the quotes from the PlayStation blog about this, though. We're expecting this to be an accessible experience for blind players, for deaf players, for players with motor accessibility needs, explains game director Matthew Gallant. The biggest new features we have are audio descriptions for cinematics. We partner with Descriptive Video Works, a professional service whose background is TV, movies, and video game trailers, and integrated it into the cutscenes and across all our localized languages. Another, which started as a prototype but ended up being really successful during playtesting, is a feature that plays dialogue through the PS5 DualSense controller as haptic feedback. That way, a deaf player can feel the way a line is delivered, can feel the emphasis along with the subtitles to give some sense of how that line is delivered.
That's awesome.
That is incredible stuff.
That's great.
Yeah, I might turn that on for myself because I think that is so cool.
I gotta see what that. I want to know what that feels like.
But I mean, if you want to look at this list, it's available on the PlayStation blog. I'm gonna just go over here real quick. Again, sorry for audio listeners, I'm not going to go through this whole thing, but just real quick, you can turn on Apply Vision accessibility preset, and they've had this in other games, but it's just like you turn that on, and then they do a million things. Like they turn on like the contrast stuff, and they show a little bit of a picture of like what the high contrast thing looks like. Like your UI is this like bright yellow, and the enemies are all red, and your character is blue. Let's see if I can find it. And again, this thing is super long, so I'm actually having trouble finding it. But either way, you could see if you're watching the video version, just a massive list of improvements that they are making.
Things with just even game difficulty and stuff like I mean, this stuff is
here it is,
broken down to categories. Just one for motion sickness,
right? And it's like my daughter was born with bilateral cataracts, and thankfully she has really good vision thanks to awesome surgeons who caught it early and were able to help with that. But we don't know how long that's going to last. High contrast stuff is like, oh yeah, I see that. I'm like, oh, wonderful. I know that this is something that is possible. And one of the biggest game developers in the world is proving that it's something that's not just like you can do, but here's how you do it. And maybe here's some best practices. And I hope it filters down to everything else going forward.
Right. I mean, Naughty Dog is so obviously a kind of leader in the industry. It's somebody that everybody is looking at. So seeing them really going super hard at this stuff is very good, because you kind of hope that sort of blooms and spreads over to everybody else, right? Everyone else will look at this and aspire to this.
Right. And it's the kind of thing where, we talk about Jim Ryan earlier this week, and then like them raising prices or whatever. Even though that was probably a decision maybe even above Jim Ryan's head a little bit. But either way, it's easy to like joke about, they don't get it or whatever. Him enabling all the studios underneath him to do this stuff and making sure they have the budget to say, hey, this is important to us. We want to be able to pull it off, and there's no pushback on that. That is worth commending. So. Sony just doing a lot of good stuff with accessibility, and it should be called out and applauded every time we see it.
Do you think the games need to be hard? People are going to somehow find a way to complain about this. Like, oh, you could just make the enemies red. Completely missing the point.
Yes, I think that is something that could happen. I think when it's presented like this, I think a lot of people will just be like, shut the hell up. We are actually not having this conversation about this. But
I think even the lowest slugs of the internet might be a little too ashamed this time.
My mouse did this thing where it did it before the show, and I'm like, oh, this will be fine, because it started working again. It's frozen again, but it seems like everything's still working, Mike. So we're just gonna go.
All right, who needs mice?
Exactly. Tinybuild acquires key Bossa franchises and Despot's game dev Comfa Games. This comes from Chris Kerr at GameDeveloper.com. The two deals might cost Tinybuild up to $8.4 million. The company has nabbed the rights to the Surgeon Simulator, I Am Fish, and I Am Bread franchises from Bossa for an upfront payment of $3 million. And then they also bought the Comfa Games, who made this Despots game, which is it's an auto battler sort of thing, and that was about $5 million. So they spent about $8.4 million in total. Basically, this is Tinybuild continuing trying to build out their IP portfolio to ensure that they can keep making stuff that's that people care about. And we talked about this earlier this week as well. Like, people just think IP is the most important thing to have. It is Bandai Namco is saying, hey, as we do more deals in the future, we need to be securing IP first, to make sure that when people come to us and say, hey, we might want to acquire you, what IP do you have, is the first question they're asking. And so I think this is Tinybuild doing the same thing, just on a different scale. Like, hey, we want to acquire you, what IP do you have that makes you worth a higher price? Well, we have I Am Bread. That was a huge meme thing. We could do more stuff with that. Like, that's probably what's happening here, right?
Simulator is something. Yeah, I mean, we were talking about the problem with Warner Brothers games where they wanted to sell studios without IP. How that could be an issue. Amazon wanting to get into games, but they don't have IP, so they've been struggling with it, and other reasons, obviously. But these seems like relatively decent moves for Tinybuild, which has kind of skirted that line of like being an indie / double A kind of publisher. A bit of a unique space they're in.
Yeah. All right. I think My mouse is
Fix
back.
The mouse.
I think so. It's just like this screen over here, but now I can't like scroll. Oh, there we go. All right, thankfully. All right, I'm gonna have to.
I'm sure it won't break again.
Yes, I know. That it immediately did. Embracer finalizes purchases of Crystal Dynamics, Eidos Montreal, and Square Enix Montreal. This is something we've been waiting for a bit now. But it's also a deal that's gone through relatively quickly at the same time. But Embracer, announced earlier this year that they would be acquiring these studios from Square Enix. Those deals are now closed, and this means that Embracer now has Tomb Raider, and it has studios that made Tomb Raider and Deus Ex. Yeah, speaking of IP, exactly. I mean, speaking of the one publisher acquiring as many IP as they possibly can, right?
Yes, getting embraced.
Yes, absolutely. I've talked a little bit about what some of these studios might work on now, and how I think it's Eidos Montreal is Deus Ex, right? And they have pitched a new Deus Ex, but that is very, very, very early. Like just a pitch, That's all it is. In between that and today, they have another pitch that seems like it might happen a little bit earlier. It is also early, and it's a kids on bike game, sort of like E.T. or Stranger Things. Codenames Project Finwood. I think it would be a new IP. So it's going to be a bit horror, a bit sci-fi, a bit thriller. This is also like, a pitch. It's early. Things could change. Who knows what Embracer's going to say we want you working on.
You would think that they would want them working on Deus Ex, right? I mean, you buy these studios, you buy the IP. I think your thinking is, well, we're excited about Deus Ex and Tomb Raider right now.
Right. See, I'm trying to fix it one more time. Oh, that just made it worse. Okay, we might have to figure something out here. Okay. You know what? Actually, let me try to close this real quick, everybody. We're going to take a quick break.
He's got this. Oh, I can do my classic flute break thing.
Yeah, there we go.
There we go. This is what I do on our show when Jeff Stuff breaks, which hasn't happened since he moved to Ohio. Most of the gremlins were in his Colorado home.
Yes, absolutely. I'm gonna close the Opera browser. I think that might be the culprit here. Okay, I think we're good. Finish your song. Finish your song. Yeah.
Me. You fucked it up, Jeff. I lost it. I was doing such a good job. God damn it. It's not a pan flute, but thank you.
I'm so sorry.
You better be sorry.
It's time for the catch-up. I wanted to just do the Madden NFL review roundup. Like the reviews have been trickling out slowly all week. And it's kind of settling around a 68 Metacritic the last time I checked. Is
that low for Madden?
That seems pretty low for Madden, and yet I've heard pretty okay things about it's all over the place. Here, let's just read this one from Owen S. Good at Polygon, who seemed to like the football part of the football game, and that's kind of what I've been experiencing as I've been playing. He says, of all the sports games, Madden is the one that year after year labors under the guise of a bulleted feature list. Is this year's version more approachable? Has it evolved the franchise at all, or merely refined the previous year's pain points? These are the questions looming over every new entry in sports video games' long-running staple. It's still Madden, for better or worse. A brilliant stretch of gameplay can still be followed by a glitch in something optional, and can still be followed by a glitch in something optional and extraneous, like the photos that the career mode automatically captures. But that gameplay is indeed brilliant. It is nothing short of remarkable to go into Madden's practice mode or face the franchise minigames and not only see correct blocking that actually picks up and cleans out an opposing linebacker during an outside power run, but also to see the same play fail and understand that it did so because I ran it to the wrong side. So that's kind of, this is pretty on par with what I've experienced as someone who's just gone in and mostly just messed around with the football part of the game. Asif Khan at Shaq News gave it a 3 out of 10. He was pretty frustrated that the new feature, remember Truck Stick was the key feature one year? This year's key feature is Field Sense, which is every player on the field is fully aware of what is happening and is able to respond to a play instead of just someone who's nearby, or they're just running their own route completely irrespective of what is going on. That isn't on the PC, and that frustrated Asif Khan must have been.
How could that be? Why would they not put it on PC?
So EA Sports is weird about they're weird about PC and the Switch. Switch we get, right? That's underpowered.
Yeah, sure.
And they're just going to put out FIFA as the FIFA 13 year after year. The PC, they've done the same thing for a long time with FIFA in particular until recently. I think this is the first year that we're getting the full-fledged version of FIFA on the PC. And Madden, it's this seems like it's a half-baked port, but it also seems like the football stuff is working, Just when it comes to these features, you're not getting as much. It's a weird choice. I agree, Mike, but I don't really get it. And I think it's a fair thing. Like if you are going into the PC version and you're feeling left out of the new stuff that they're making a big deal out of course that is an inherently worse version. Ace says, at the end of the day, Madden NFL 23 is a poor pro football simulator. It isn't even a fun arcade-style game. It feels somewhat aimless with the development team pulling the game in many different directions at the same time. Yeah.
Do you think so? We saw how like WWE 2K wasn't critic-proof. It had a really bad year, and then it lost money and had to take time off. Is Madden fully kind of review score proof, Jeff? Is Metacritic mad at all? Because I suspect it's probably going to be fine.
Yes, I think if it was like 3s across the board, they would that
bad,
right? But I think getting above a 65 is kind of still a bulletproof like area for them, where they can say, yeah, we're going to come out, and most people who are going to buy this game every year are going to just find the thing that they care about or find the thing that is good and stick with that. And Madden Ultimate Team, I'm sure, is probably fine for those players as well. So, yeah. Let's see. And then, let's see if I can, we're actually going to be able to look at this because I did close Opera to save our lives here. But there was a leak of a Need for Speed game, of graphic style. Like they actually showed a small snippet of gameplay. And it's right in line with what we talked about before, where it would be sort of realistic car models in a mostly realistic world, and then cartoon effects would be coming off of those cars, and that's exactly what you could see in the clip.
Overlaid on top of them, kind of. I mean, you see this kind of thing in things like Fortnite and other things, so not a huge
right
shock to see this kind of thing used here. But
exactly, but it's new for Need for Speed. It feels slightly different. I think it looks pretty cool for the most part.
Yeah, sure. I mean, we've been talking about this too, how for some reason Need for Speed doesn't exactly rev our engines, and but maybe this new one can stand out and can be exciting and could be something worth checking out. I was about to say it's been a while since I played an open world racing game. I guess for the last Forza Horizon wasn't that long ago, but still. There are Need for Speed fans, Jeff, that keep this franchise going, even when it feels like in the kind of larger gaming world it doesn't get talked about. These games still do well.
Yes, and you can see kind of like I'm showing it now. I'm risking it. I opened Opera again. Wow. The skull pops off the hood, and these cartoon wings pop off the side, and there's a glitch effect as you crash and stuff. Looks
cool. Doing something.
Yes, exactly. They're doing something, and that's the big O thing is in Chicago, right? Or is that like it's not exactly.
I think you're thinking of the Bean. You're thinking of the Bean, which it made me think of that also.
This game does take place in a fictionalized version of Chicago. This is obviously a fictionalized thing of the Bean, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, I think, okay, that's right.
That makes sense. Okay. Let's see here. I think that's going to take us to our poll for the week. So let's get to that. I asked yesterday, do you still believe that Twilight Princess and Wind Waker HD are coming to the Switch? 48.4% said yes, 27.6% said no, and 24% said I never believe.
So most people don't think it's coming.
So most people don't think it's coming, right?
Despite me and you saying it is coming.
Yeah, it hurts my feelings, Mike. I don't know. How do you feel about it?
It should. Yeah, I feel personally attacked and insulted. I think I'm gonna just go into my bedroom and sulk about it, and I don't know.
I'm gonna keep repeating Twilight Princess Wind Waker HD while flexing to see if I could scare people into believing me. But
yeah, I'm gonna tell everybody that you get Link's crossbow training instead now.
There you go. Well, that'd be nice too. That'd be fun. I'd play that again. Yeah. Obviously, we want this to happen. Everyone wants. I think most people are even the people that don't believe. I think many of them still hope this is going to happen, and that's what this is about. Like they don't want to believe because they hope so much that it really is going to happen. And then I think, again, we said this before, but regardless of what we've heard, this just makes so much sense that it would be wild to think it wouldn't happen. Someone in the reply said, they ported Pikmin 3 from Wii U. There's no way they're going to leave those Zelda HD ports there, right?
No, exactly. I know it seems weird that it hasn't happened yet, and I also was kind of losing faith. It's it's so bizarre that this hasn't happened yet. But there was a time when everybody thought it was weird that they haven't ported Pikmin 3 yet. I remember that, and then all of a sudden it was yeah, that's happening, and it's happening in a month. And you were saying that, by the way, that was done forever ago. They were sitting on it, just kind of waiting for a time for it to come out, and eventually that time came. I think the time is coming up for Twilight Princess and Wind Waker. I guess my question still is, what is the package there? Are we buying these separately? Is it a duo pack this time? I don't know those details.
Okay, so for the next poll for next week, big acquisitions are over. Is that going to fit? That's going to fit. Okay. So who do you think gets acquired next? EA, Ubisoft, or Square Enix? And then those are the options along with big acquisitions are over. Yeah, I mean, of these four options, I'm like split between like Square Enix and big acquisitions are over, Mike.
Right. Well, I mean, was it Tencent that got a bit more of Ubisoft? I don't know if they would just go all in or if they're happy enough with that. Well, I mean, Square Enix, I used to think, there was a lot of buzz about Sony, and I kind of bought into that at some point. Now I feel
I think it was a conversation that probably went pretty far. Sure. But yeah.
But it went far and then didn't happen. So exactly, pick up that conversation again, or
I don't think
so. That one's done. So, yeah, EA is weird. I know there's so many rumors about it today, but it still seems like a bit of a weird prospect. Especially again now, if Amazon tried, it didn't happen. There must have at least been talks there if this rumor came out. We know CNBC didn't. Disney is not really in the acquisition mood anymore, especially under their current CEO. They're more in a saving money mood. They got hit pretty hard by the pandemic. It's hard imagining them really going out and spending big money on a video game publisher. So, yeah, I don't know. There's a part of me, it's like, no, maybe the big acquisitions are at least over for a bit.
Yeah, and I think, honestly, now that I think about it, like Square Enix might have even been indicating that because, after those rumors and after selling some of their less profitable studios to Embracer, making themselves a good acquisition target, what have they announced since then? That they are going to begin like selling stakes in their internal studios to outside interests.
Studio,
right?
Western Development.
And they started a new studio that, and then again, they're probably going to consider selling a stake in that, like this weird thing where people from like Tencent can come in and invest without actually acquiring Square Enix. It seems to me like that was a plan B when plan A was, Sony comes in and buys us or something, and that didn't work out. So we still need more money. We need to find new ways of shoring up our revenue or shoring up our ability to invest in our games. And maybe by bringing in outside partners, that's the way we could do that without having to worry about acquisitions that seem like they might be over for now. All that said, it feels like once the Microsoft Activision deal gets done, maybe Microsoft comes back on the block and starts pushing around that weight again. And Phil Spencer did say, like yesterday, it was part of one of these Charm Offensive interviews, that they want to make more acquisitions outside of North America and Europe. So he still is looking. So I should have put Sega here, right?
Sega always gets brought up. People thought Bloomberg leaked Sega, right?
Right. Yes, because that video where the lady just made a mistake. Absolutely. All right, Mike.
Possibility.
What do you have going on for this weekend? You got anything fun going on?
No, there's a birthday party for a friend. I'll go to, and we'll see what that's about. Mostly, I think I want to lay low. We will see how that goes. Maybe play some more GameCube games, do some more beautiful joeing. Oh, actually, no, my homebrew disc for my GameCube came in that can load Swiss on it.
Ooh, so, wait, I actually don't know what Swiss is.
It's the homebrew program for the GameCube. So,
okay.
I got this thing off eBay. I can run it because I have a special mod on this Spice Orange GameCube that I bought. So we'll see how this goes. This just came in before we started, Jeff. So I'll be tinkering around with even more GameCube shenanigans.
Yeah, I'm very excited about that. You said you'll be streaming tonight, you think?
Yeah, I'll probably do some streaming tonight. Why not? Although I still want to play a lot more of the Final Fantasy 14 patch. I'm not necessarily streaming that, which has been very good so far. Yeah,
people have been talking that up. Tonight, me and Mike are going to be facing off against MVG in a match of Jeopardy for our supporters over on our Patreon. So if you want to check that out, yeah, there's info on my Twitter account or whatever. But it's that I'm looking forward to that. Thinking MVG, we've never been beaten by one of our guests yet, mostly because the questions are very much suited for us, or because we're geniuses. MVG might prove a bit of a challenge, so looking forward to that. Yeah, and then today here on Giant Bomb, we're gonna have UPF later, and we are gonna play Super Mario 3D World online multiplayer.
It's gonna be fun.
I really want to get through that whole game. I want to get to that. What is the not Rainbow Road there? What the
Gosh, what did they call it? I forget. 'Cause I did that whole thing, which was very fun. Who are you gonna play as? Are you playing on a save file that has Rosalina unlocked?
I think Dan has Rosalina unlocked, so yes, we probably will use his. That makes sense. So yeah, he'll play as Rosalina. I think I'm probably just gonna play as Luigi.
Okay, Jan's calling Peach.
Okay, yes, and Jan called Peach. That's right. And then we'll get in there and make that happen. And then let's see. Before that, let me actually bring up the calendar. I got it right here.
Yeah, what else is going on?
The Gabby J's Super Punch Out Challenge, which is, I realized that many of our names begin with J, so we're going to control Gabby J, and Dan Record's going to control Mac, and we're gonna punch him a lot, and it's going to be real fun because let's see how this works. Exactly, he says. I'm pretty sure I'm just going to spam a bunch of attacks and he's going to go down. We tried it out a little bit. We tested it out. It does just work. It functions. It works like you expect. It works with Nintendo Switch Online. So we're going to do that right after this.
So crazy.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Still can't believe 28 years that was heading. All right, everybody. With that, I want to thank Mike for hanging out with me. Mikey, thank you so much.
You are welcome, sir.
Everybody, thank you for watching. You're the best audience in gaming. Until next time, have a good one. Take care of yourself, and goodbye.
Bye.